Cheers, my loves. I hope that all of you are doing really well, and in this video I want to talk to you about repetition compulsion. I'm sure that you know, either with yourself or with somebody else in your life, this pattern of getting involved in situations and relationships that do not serve, that end up being abusive, and then getting out of them, and then getting involved again with very similar kinds of dynamics, relationships that do not serve, and people that are potentially abusive. Why do people do that, and how do we break the pattern? Well, from the most basic kind of psychological point of view, the reason that people do that is because they're not consciously overriding their conditioning. They're unconsciously standing on the tracks that their conditioning, their childhood conditioning has provided for them. They're not really questioning what is going on there, and so they're thinking they'll do things differently, but they just keep repeating the same kind of pattern. For example, if somebody grew up in a family where the dynamic was dysfunctional, they're very likely to recreate a similar kind of dysfunctional dynamic in the future for themselves without even understanding that they're just on autopilot. They're just on subconscious. They don't understand how they're doing it, and at the core of it is the fact that they think that unhealthy ways of relating to other people are actually healthy ways of relating to other people. They understood maybe that there was something uncomfortable, something dysfunctional about their original family dynamic, but they haven't correctly identified what that is because they still haven't been exposed to an example of a healthy and a functional family dynamic or healthy and a functional work dynamic. So they have this vague idea, but they don't have this clear understanding. And absent of having this discernment, having integrated this clear understanding of what a healthy and what a secure dynamic looks like, they go on a discovery journey in order to understand that for themselves. And usually the discovery journey isn't just consisting of repetition, compulsion of the same patterns. You will notice with a certain intermittence there's going to be a pendulum swing. For example, if somebody grew up in a family which had very porous boundaries, where people weren't very involved, weren't very caring, where there were practically no standards, and everybody spent all day sitting on the couch, smoking pot, watching TV, and basically saying whatever they wanted to say, doing whatever they want to say, then as that person gets older, they usually would go one of two ways. Way number one is they would unconsciously repeat this kind of dynamic because they would think that's how people live their lives. And the other way is, if they're the scapegoat or the black sheep of the family, they will rebel against that dynamic and they will say, I'm not going to be like that, and adopt the opposite polarity to that on the same level of frequency, and they will be militant about their discipline, about their objectives, about their goals. They will not allow any leeway for anything. So looking at both of these, what eventually happens is oversaturation. A person gets too much of this one thing. For example, this person that is used to sitting on the couch smoking pot all the time and watching whatever they want on TV, expressing themselves however inconsiderately they like to express themselves, eventually gets oversaturated with that dynamic. And somebody shows up in their life that seems like they're weird, they're strange, there's something off about that person, except there's something so profoundly attractive about them. And the more they get to know that person, the more they feel like there's just something so profoundly attractive about them. And what is really profoundly attractive about that person is that they have standards, they have boundaries, they have goals, they have expectations, and this is something new, this is something unusual, this is something complementary. And this person who has not received that has a massive void that they may not even be acknowledging for that they have created when they were growing up effectively, and are now oversaturated with this laxness, this lack of caring, this lack of presence, this lack of involvement. Immediately, like a magnet, gets drawn to the person who has these boundaries, who has these standards. So then they're learning how to have these boundaries, how to have these standards, but usually it will be very hard for them. They're not used to it. They haven't completely integrated the understanding of why they need them, why they serve them. They just feel drawn to them. And sooner or later, they will not be able to handle the extreme at which the other person is with their expectations, with their self goals, and they're going to go, no, but probably my original dynamic in my family was better. I can see why that was the way to go. And so what effectively is going to happen, can happen over decades, it can happen over years, is the swing from one extreme to the other extreme to the other extreme. And what the person is effectively looking for is discernment. And discernment is understanding a situation from multiple points of view so that you can integrate these points of view and have the wisdom to come to the most wholesome, most loving conclusion. And usually the way forward with that is that the person's swing become less radical and less radical until they finally start pinpointing and identifying a dynamic that works for them. But almost always it starts, if a person is being driven by their unconscious and not consciously overriding it, with the idea of, I'm going to recreate my original family dynamic, or I'm going to rebel against my original family dynamic. Neither one approaches the situation with conscientiousness, with discernment, and with love for the people involved, and understanding why they were behaving in the ways in which they were behaving, and what an actual, healthy, secure family dynamic looks like. Again, people often blame their unhappiness in life on different desires that they ended up pursuing. I had a desire for boundaries. I had a desire for laxness. When in reality, desire was just the engine. But what was driving you was the lack of discernment. And what really got you into trouble was the lack of discernment. I'm not saying desires can't be excessive, but they also are usually the engine that propels you towards this equilibrium, and that is the fuel for the things that you accomplish in life and for the person that you become in life. Having said that, I do also want to caution people in terms of, I've been hearing a lot of victim blaming out there on the webs, where people are saying, you got into this relationship when there were all of these red flags. How could you have overlooked all of these red flags in the beginning? Every relationship has red flags. You go to the happiest couple, the most wholesome couple, and you act out this idea to them that their partner has misbehaved, has betrayed them, has done something really wrong, has spent all of their savings, and you will hear any person tell you, I knew it. My mother told me there were red flags from the beginning. But here's the deal: as you gain discernment, you learn what your deal breakers are. You're not expecting to meet somebody who doesn't have red flags, because everybody is going to have those. You understand what is a stop sign and what is a permanent, I'm going to abandon this vehicle, I'm going to get out of it, and I'm going to leave kind of situation. And in another video, we should really explore a little bit more what more healthy and secure family and work dynamics look like. Cheers, my loves. I wish you all a beautiful day, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye.